Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to MACFEST 2024. Today we welcome you from the UK, from France, and from Africa. Tell us in the chat where you're watching us from. My name is Katarzyna. I'm a member of the MACFEST team, and today we've got an exciting photography event. It's part of our international festival with two photographers, twins, Hasan and Husain Essop. Now it's especially exciting because Hasan is one of the judges for the Muslim Arts Awards that MACFEST is organizing. So if you do have some works you'd like to show you're an artist or a creative, head over to MACFEST website and you can submit them for free. And the deadline is 30th of June. The host for today is Aisha, and I'll tell you a little bit about Aisha in a moment. First, I'd like to thank everybody for your generous donations, and please send more because we're organizing MACFEST 2025. We want to have as many free events for you organized as possible, and we still have a few to go before MACFEST finishes this year, so please take a look on Eventbrite. Stay connected via newsletter and social media. MACFEST is on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. So please use our hashtag #SpreadHoneyNotHate. And now I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Aisha. She's a Tunisian-born journalist and producer based in London. She's the creative force behind Islam Channel's popular morning show, Salam Britain, and produced seasons 2 and 3 of the hit series Come Iftar With Me. Aisha admires photography, which complements her dedication to showcasing diverse Muslim cultures. Her multifaceted talents have made her a respected figure in the media industry, and she continues to inspire others through her work on screen and behind the scenes. Over to you, Aisha. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Katarzyna, for the introduction, and welcome to everyone who's joining us from all over the world. Today, as Katarzyna just mentioned, is going to be a very interesting webinar. And with us today, join us all the way from Cape Town, our twin brothers, Hasan and Husain Essop. They graduated from the Michaelis School of Art at the University of Cape Town in 2006 with a Bachelor of Fine Art majoring in printmaking and photography, respectively. They completed a postgraduate diploma in art in 2009 and a postgraduate certificate in education in 2012. I'm going to tell you a bit about them, but obviously they will let you know more about what they've been doing. But what Hasan and Husain mainly are doing they are using culture and identity as a weapon. They always explored this in their work and the role of media played post September 11 and its impact around the world. And this is where they experienced as young artists who began traveling abroad. And today they are seeing its real brutality, an issue they are currently facing. So I'm just going to tell you a bit more about their background. So they are recipients of the 2014 Standard Bank Young Artist Award for Visual Art. Their work has been showcased globally. Their practice includes photography, mixed media, live performance, and video. Their performances has featured in Infecting the City, Cape Town 2016, Live Art Festival, Cape Town 2017, and Spiel Art Festival Munich 2017. Exhibitions include Refuge at Goodman Gallery, Johannesburg 2017, Unrest Standard Gallery, Cape Town 2012, Inedible Marks at Gallery Isabel van den Eyen, Dubai, Figures and Fictions, Contemporary South African Photography at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, and this was in 2011. Their works are held in several private and public collections, such as the Deutsche Bank Collection, Speer Art Collection, and Isoko South African National Gallery, amongst others. Wow, I'm bombarded with the amount of places you guys have been, and I cannot wait for you to tell us more about what you've been doing. So over to you guys, all the way from Cape Town, Hasan and Husain, welcome.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone, for joining. Thank you again for that wonderful introduction. We are very happy to be part of this and to share a little bit of our story. Yes, it has been quite a mouthful, but Hussein and I have had a wonderful journey since we graduated from the Michaelis School of Fine Art in 2006. as young Muslim boys growing in Cape Town with a long heritage here in Cape Town, it was something that was very new and unique to us and our community. And I think it was that um, interest that really sparked our journey. When Hussein and I decided to study fine arts at Michaelis in 2002, we then started our studies in 2003, my apologies. The Michaelis of School of Fine Arts, they only take 69 students a year. And Alhamdulillah, Hussein and I were lucky to have been accepted. But at the same time, we were the only two Muslim boys out of our entire year. Our studies at Michaelis was very tough. We came from a background that we were learning a lot of the mediums that we were being exposed to. We picked up a camera for the first time. We were introduced to photography for the first time, and that was at university level. So there was a lot of challenges, I would say. But I think the biggest challenge was our peers, the people around us, our lecturers. They knew nothing about our community, where we came from, our backgrounds. And I think a lot of what the information or their understanding came from what they were exposed through the media. And we know what the media portrays Islam as. So it was in our fourth year that Hussein and I decided that something needs to be done, because we were getting a lot of criticism from our lecturers, and we thought that the best way to tackle this is to actually take them into our community, because they've never been into the spaces or the neighborhoods where we come from. Sorry, just as a sidetrack, South Africa, a little bit about our history. Through during apartheid, South Africa passed the Segregation Act, which divided the city, the country amongst races. So we grew up in an area which was predominantly for the Indian community, which was also quite isolated. Well, we had a wonderful childhood because we didn't know better. So we grew up amongst like-minded people and like-minded culture. But once we got older, we realized that it was quite segregated and a lot of dialogue needed to take place. And that's where Hussein and I thought that, wow, like we could use our art to kind of bridge and create a dialogue. So we decided to use photography because it was relatively a new medium. A little bit was being explored. It was still the boom of Photoshop was starting to come out. We're still using it old big IMAX. And we decided to take the camera into our everyday spaces, be it the mosque that we'd go to as children, to our local butcher, to just what we'd be doing as young Muslim boys within our community. And that's exactly what we did. We took the camera into these spaces and we created these windows for people that have never entered these spaces to actually be and see what we found as the beauty of Islam and why we were so proud of our religion and our identity. And that created a spark, because people actually were so interested. They loved what they saw and they started to ask questions and so forth. But I feel what was fun about that is that these spaces acted like a stage for us. Going there we saw these spaces every day, but when we went there with the camera and this kind of idea of what we wanted to try and achieve, we saw these spaces for the first time. And we created the stage arena. And even though we were trying to showcase this window of where we come from, we still felt we needed to load it with an underlying message of what was truly affecting us as being young Muslims growing up in the kind of Western-dominated culture and society. So my brother and myself, we grew up, especially at university level, we had this inner guilt and struggle within ourselves of trying to be good Muslim boys, because we were raised, my parents pray 5 times a day. My mom's, I won't say very religious, but she's quite staunch in her belief, and she instilled that onto us. So us trying to be accepted by people around us, going out at night, having a fun time, but at the same time knowing that there are limitations, etc., did kind of make us question a lot of who we are and our beliefs, etc. But I think putting us in an environment like that made our belief even stronger. And we felt that where art is concerned, yes, we believe art is about aesthetic, it's about beauty, but at the same time, it is an opportunity for us to actually say something important. And I feel 9/11 had a major role to play with us specifically because I feel we are that generation of that landmark. And so being early post 9/11, it had a profound effect on us. We were experiencing that shift of people looking at us differently, talking to us differently, not being accepted, being labeled, being stereotyped. So I think it was just a natural progression into allowing that narrative to enter our work and our thinking process. And also art within our community, especially with the Muslim community, there's very little like when we look at when we were doing research about Muslim art or Islamic art in South Africa, all you really pick up is Islamic calligraphy. There was a few artists that were, painting beautiful rakams, as we call them. And we grew up in a home where we never had portraits, family portraits or pictures on the walls and so forth. So when we were creating works, we were always conscious about the figure, representing the figure. And also with photography, when you go out and you photograph spaces, you document spaces, you're always conscious about who are the people in the space. When you exhibit a picture, how are these people going to benefit from it? Are they not going to benefit? Are they going to be against it? Getting permission for including people in photographs. And that's when we decided that we actually, to avoid all of this, we're going to use ourselves in the picture. We are going to, if there's going to be any judgment from within our religion, if there's going to be any criticism from outside, it's going to solely be on us. And that's where we decided that because we are twins and we kind of this copy of each other, we decided that we're actually going to play on that. And that's why when we recreated these pictures and these scenes, we recreated it, also taking in consideration certain stereotypes and people and characters that you would actually find in the spaces. So we became actors, the photographs were not only capturing moments, but it had a performative aspect to the picture. So we would choose a scene, and Hussein and I would discuss a scene. We'd walk past a space and we'd be like, wow, that is a cool space to do something. So we would have this conversation before we actually go out and take the photo. Because when we're entering these spaces, for example, the pitbull fight was the first picture that Hussein and I did together. And that photograph, Hussein and I had a long conversation and a dialogue with each other. This is a cool space that we could do something. Like Hussein said, that we were speaking about this East and West inner struggle that we were going through. And that's what we try to represent in the clothing, the attire that we are wearing. So you'll see one figure is dressed in Islamic garb. And this is the figure that, when we come home, we want to go to mosque, we want to fulfill our 5 pillars, we want to be good Muslims, make our parents proud of us. Also with the white robe, you de-branding yourself, you're becoming equal with everyone. And then you're fighting against this other person that is part of the secular society that we belong to, that goes out, that, kind of fits in with other cultures, with other religions. And there's this constant, so it wasn't good or bad, but it was just this constant inner struggle that we were fighting against. So, and I feel like the initial spark for this specific photograph was within our community. This is quite a big thing. It's quite a big subculture of breeding and fighting pit bulls. It's something we do not encourage or accept, but it's a reality that we see every day. And sadly, a lot of the people we were exposed to within this kind of subculture were Muslim men. And we found it very strange that you practice the religion that promotes peace and looking after God's creatures, but yet you think it's okay to do things like this. So we felt like this is an interesting topic, a great way to spark this narrative of an inner struggle, inner battle, of having to deal with the limitations of a religion, but at the same time also fitting into a society, belonging to these various subcultures that exist. And they come into existence as a survival mode, as a survival strategy. So these pictures are taken in 2007. Hussein and I graduated in 2006. So we were very fortunate that quite a prestigious gallery saw our grad work in 2006, and they called us up the next year in 2007, and they said, boys, we saw your graduate work. We really liked it. What are you boys doing? So we said, well, we're doing nothing. We have an art degree, but there's no job that requires a fine art degree. We were kind of stuck in a catch-22. So he said, boys, don't worry, come into the gallery. Let's have a discussion, and then let's take it from there. And then we told them, you know, Hussein and I always wanted to work together. In university, we couldn't work together. They didn't allow us. But post-university, we said we wanted to make pictures together or make art together. So he said, boys, go ahead, make some work. And if there's anything we like, we'll put it on a show. And Hussein and I, we made the Pitbull fight. And they loved it, and they put it on a group show, quite a big group show. And so you will see we're young, we're fresh, we quite naive, would say. But that's what we needed as young artists. You know, we needed someone to believe in us, to give us an opportunity. And that's what I was saying. We kind of took that and we just went out and we started making work. So finding different spaces.
But even within a photograph like this is a perfect example of the way the media was creating this narrative of and the stereotype of Muslims being these extremists, terrorists, etc., which was accompanied with training scenes. And you know, CNN would bombard the public with all these underground training footage, which obviously affected us being young, and so that echoed into our storyboarding. So this specific photograph was done in a backyard, and it just shows these areas are quite poor areas, and the houses are extremely small, but just to show what can happen within a small space. And this is a real situation, real scenario, that just the people are replaced by us. And again, the story behind it, influenced by Hollywood movies that we were watching of people being trained and conditioned to hate the East. We kind of played with that and created this kind of parody in the sense of, you know, dressing up these teddy bears with American flags.
But also the new enemy with this dark eyebrows and the dark beard and the brown skin. You know, this was now this new enemy that was popping up in Western media. And we kind of played with that stereotype. You know, we wanted to show how easy it is to manipulate media, how to manipulate imagery and video and so on.
So, I mean, we had that weapons of mass destruction circulating quite a bit. So we used these pit bulls as our metaphor of our weapons of mass destruction, kind of training these creatures to hate the West the same way the West was training us to hate, you know, the stereotype Hasan just spoke about. And you have this character in the foreground that is videoing the entire training session. And because one would wonder, where do all these videos emerge from? Like, how did you get pictures of Al-Qaeda in training camps and jungle gyms, etc.? You know, why would they even give access to footage like that? So we just tried to recreate that early on in our kind of narrative. But the works obviously progressed. They became a bit more matured. Some very serious issues we started turning to a bit of symbolism that was really affecting us, where the Palestine-Israeli issues were concerned. Again, the extremities of having to deal with growing up, trying to be a good Muslim, living within a very Western-dominated society.
But the works also vary. You know, you'll find works that are very serious, and then there are works that are quite light-hearted, and that also shows our personality, because this is a collaboration. This is two artists, it's not one. So when we're making work, you'll find that Hussein usually brings a kind of I won't say extreme, but a very serious and political issues he's very interested in, where I am kind of more wanting to show light-hearted kind of beauty of the spaces and what we are experiencing. So when we are creating pictures, you will find there are images that are loaded, that are very serious, and then you'll find images that are just very light-hearted and you know, that are just speaking about the everyday, not that serious.
Technically, the works also progressed in the sense of how we were shooting them. The examples that are on the screen now are actually full view panoramics. They're made up of over 450 stills that have been carefully stitched together. Some of these photographs have taken us over 3 months to stitch physically and manually stitch together.
This photograph in particular is a Shia mosque in Hamburg, Germany. And what you're looking on the top of the picture is the chandelier. And the way the mosque is laid out it's laid out in a circle. So it's the first time we entered a mosque where it's a circle and not a square or rectangle. And that's why with the panoramic technique, the picture came out completely straight, which was quite unique. And that has the entire Surah Yasin on the tiles there. So you know, it also we were when we started traveling, we were exposed to other cultures and other beliefs. It was the first time we met. It was the first time I walked into a Shia mosque. You know, that was we would hear about Shiism and so forth. But when we started traveling and we engaged with different people, also trying to look and capture, you know, images and our what we were experiencing.
So at the same time, what Hasan is saying, you know, experiencing that, going to Amsterdam, for example, this is titled Police Watch. And this was the first mosque we came across that actually was allowed to look like a mosque. A lot of the mosques just looked like ordinary buildings. And we found it quite amazing that they built a police station right next to the mosque. This kind of horrific.
This the red structure. So the red cube is the police station.
And you can see which is the new building. They literally built it quite recently, flooded it with cameras all pointing towards the mosque. And we just found it so interesting. I mean, we spent 3 months in Amsterdam and the paranoia was crazy. The Islamophobia that we experienced was quite hectic. But at the same time, we were surprised. Sorry, Hasan. There was a massive Muslim population. We were under the understanding like there's no Muslims in Europe. But when we went to these places, we were like coming across halal shops. The Jumu'ahs were full. We were like, wow, there's a lot of Muslims here. Why is there so much hate towards Muslims if there's so many living in these parts of the world?
And South Africa is quite, you know, it's a beautiful country in a sense where all religions and practices, it's open, there's no judgment. So to be a Muslim in South Africa is amazing. You know, we've never felt any sort of aggression towards Islam from any sector. And when we started traveling, it was the first time we became conscious of our identity. You know, it was the first time where I was in a space of around people where I actually felt scared, or I felt I was being watched, or people were afraid of me. In South Africa, that was never the case, you know? So it was that word Islamophobia, really, I understood it when I started traveling. And when when we started traveling, that also fueled the work, because our art is it's natural. We produce work that we are feeling what is happening in these moments. And so when we're creating these pictures, it just kind of influenced that what we were going through and experiencing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go into too much detail, but my brother and I, we've experienced some very, very bad experiences. I mean, we've always been stopped at airports. Once we arrived in Charles de Gaulle, they didn't even let us off the plane. Soldiers carried us off from the plane. And sadly, we know that was the protocol. An hour later, we'll get the apologies because all our paperwork checks out. They realized we actually invited guests. I think for me, the worst experience was one of my last trips to Hamburg. We were rushing to get onto a train with our suitcases. And the moment we jumped onto the train with my brother and I with our suitcases, the train started moving and everyone in the train started to pray. People were crying. It was for me, it was quite a hectic experience. And till today, I feel like it was a wake-up call as to how people are living in fear, especially when things like this happen. I know shortly before that, something bad did happen, and what people were watching was this incident being played over and over to them. So obviously, when they saw these 2 boys jumping on a train with a bag, immediately they thought the worst. But it just showed again this idea of the physical appearance playing such a major role. Where my brother and I feel like we are the nicest people you ever meet. We haven't stolen a thing in our life, you know. But then again, those things also fueled the body of work that you're seeing now, titled Refuge. What happened with the Syrian issue, the Syrian refugees, that was quite dramatic. And we felt like when these things happen, we have a duty as artists to kind of speak about it. So here we have a lonely father on the beach, surrounded by litter, but at the same time, goods or children items or clothing that has washed up. And he's holding on to it because that is kind of the only remembrance he has of his family, so to say. How many people we lost during that crisis. But also just the way the clothing are washing up onto the shore, like the litter that's washing up. Because that's basically what people thought of these people as nothing. And then again, turning to the media, we were appalled to see all these ISIS photographs and beheadings and stuff. And here you can see this. This is a photograph made of 6 people, but there's only 2 individuals making it. How real we've made this image to look. I mean, it looks like it's in Syria, but it's in Cape Town on a beachfront. So it's just, we want to make people aware of how easy it is to manipulate visual imagery, so that don't believe everything you see via the media. Things can, in this generation especially, be changed, and meanings can be changed and imposed onto you, but it's so hard to accept what is truth and what is not.
And this image is quite difficult to look at on its own, but it fueled it was part of a bigger story within the exhibition. So whenever we're putting on a show, it's a story you're telling, and each artwork, yes, it needs to stand on its own, but it also feeds the next images. So we had this kind of horrific images of things that we were seeing in the media, but at the same time, it was also countering counter images that were also showing the destruction and things that were happening, and what was the repercussions of these things. So, like Hussein said, as we got older and we started experiencing a lot of these issues, did the work become a lot more serious. Our earlier works were very playful. Like I said, we're kind of naive and excited about being in the art world, and it was our sole income. So all Hussein and I were focused on was making work, having exhibitions, and we were living off those sales. But once we started, we got married, having our own families. I think that something also in us started to mature and become a lot more serious. And that's what I enjoy about our work, is that it captures this timeline. Not only does it capture us aging in our identity and so forth, but it captures, it documents this journey. It's like a time capsule. So we can look back and look back at our art and actually see something, tell something about us. The picture you're looking at is the Berlin Wall.
Oh yeah, a very lovely piece, and I feel so relevant today. This is Germany's idea of trying to reconcile their past, the past horrors, and I feel like it's sad how history tends to repeat itself, and kind of don't want to go further. There's so much I would love to add to that, but I think right now, no, I find it really interesting how history repeats itself.
Mhm.
And so
Sorry,
Yes,
Hasan, I just wanted to talk about what your work that you've been showcasing so far is absolutely amazing. And as you said, there was a shift in your work, from being a young artist to growing up to having your own family and children, and then your perspective on life generally changes. And then being born and based in Cape Town, obviously there is a smaller Muslim community, and then traveling allowed you to see the real world in a sense. I just wanted to ask, like, how was the feedback? For example, looking at the photos so far, how did people take it? The one that was showcasing as if it was Al Qaeda, militias. Like, how did people take that? You did say that it was quite difficult to look at. The first second, it's a real difficult, photo to look at. But what would people say? Like, if it was, if I was in a gallery walking around and then I came across this photo, what was the feedback?
Let me start from in the beginning, when our careers were taking off and we were getting a lot of attention. Our community was very proud of us. You must remember, arts, 2 Muslim boys from Cape Town, born in Rylands, making waves in the art scene. I mean, that's a 1% that's never been seen. So as we were learning, and our parents were learning about the art world, so was our community, because we were bringing them into the space. So we were invited to speak on Muslim radio stations. We spoke at Muslim schools and so forth. And this was wonderful because we were exciting and the next generation, that you can pursue the arts as a career, so to say. And once the work, I think our last exhibition, you'll find people will always misinterpret your work. You could try to the best of your ability to load your images and code your images with enough information that they will try and get what you're trying to put in. But at the end of the day, you can't stand next to your picture and tell the story. You have to rely on people's own baggage that they're bringing and decoding the work and what they're getting out. So when they read the work, sometimes they completely misinterpret it. It's just a natural thing. And some people don't like it. They think that, they're reading it in a way that we're supporting certain voices and that. And then others do get it. you know. And I think that's just the thing with art and the challenge of creating art and navigating where you're trying to create works that will be read the way you put it in. But that's, you know, we enjoy the challenge. And I think the last exhibition it was a lot because it's not beautiful pictures in a sense where someone will buy it and put it up on their wall. But for us, it was important images to create so that it could start a conversation and it could show people to their face what is happening, you know. And if they can't look at it, then that is the problem. They need to ask themselves, why can't they look at this picture? Because these are things that are actually happening to people.
But I think on a positive note as well, these photographs definitely opened up a space for people to ask questions. I was amazed at how little people know about the religion of Islam. People were asking us basic questions of like, so why do you pray 5 times a day? What is fasting? So some questions were even like just directed straight to the religion, not even about the art. And maybe they felt a bit comfortable approaching us as artists. We didn't come across as these very learned people that's going to come at you if you ask us a silly question. We're very relaxed individuals, very easy to speak to and open up to. So it was wonderful having these walkabouts and having people actually speak to us and ask us about the religion more so about the art. And yes, gradually the conversation would lead into the art. We'd explain, yes, this is the reason. But I found that truly as a blessing where we actually got to speak more about our deen than our art when we were traveling and when people were seeing our work.
Because 90%, even more than 90% of the work of the people that come to our exhibitions, that buys our work, that are exposed to our work are non-Muslims. A very small percentage of Muslims own our work or go and visit galleries and look at art. So we're actually making the work to empower the Muslim viewer, but in reality, it's the non-Muslim viewer that has a higher chance of getting exposed and seeing our work. You know, and our whole intention was trying to bring the Muslim viewer to the gallery, try to empower the Muslim viewer when they're looking and engaging with our work. They're in a more favorable position than a non-Muslim viewer. So we were always conscious about that. But like I said, the reality is it's non-Muslim viewers. And as Hussein said, they are eager to understand and to learn more. And we found that, you know, when we were having these exhibitions, we were put in a scenario where they were asking us questions. So we also needed to know more about who we are, where we come from, what about like our religion and so forth, because they were asking us important questions.
Yeah.
So it made us, in a way, I won't say stronger Muslims, but more knowledgeable, more conscious of the things that we're doing, the things that the spaces we were entering, our actions and so forth.
Yeah, and just our duty as artists. This specific work, a wonderful image taken at Kope, and this was the time during the xenophobic attacks that were happening here in South Africa.
Yeah.
The fear of foreign people stealing and taking jobs. And the local people got quite fed up at one stage and they started protesting, rioting, looting, and showing these foreign nationals out of fear, they were fleeing the country with just what they could carry. Hence the kind of African patterning thobes that we are wearing, but just on looking an horizon of not knowing whether you're coming or going or what does the future lie. But I mean, if you can, this image to me, it relates so much to so much that has been happening since it was made, even today, of how many people are being displaced from their homes, are dealing with civil war and dealing with this kind of having to carry what you can and not knowing what tomorrow holds, whether you're going to be here or not. So for me, these photographs are really, when I look back, I'm so proud that we managed to make images like this that can exist within various time periods. I mean, even this, we made this shot specifically talking about the Syrian crisis, but if you look at today what's happening in Palestine, I mean, this image could relate to that too, and various other places, you know, Afghanistan, Iraq, etc.
So, and these figures, they're all looking to the sky in fear, you know, and you see these drone strikes that are just,
it's the new warfare of
obliterating spaces, large spaces, and people running away, and there's no concern of any sort of casualty, you know. It's all this
but this is a window view, so even you have this kind of dilapidated, broken down buildings, and I like the fact that we managed to frame it in such a way to compose it where the viewer is looking within a window view of a reality that
So
exists.
we always are looking for spaces that we can try and create these images. You know, when we're driving around cities or in our own community, in our own cities, we're always looking for spaces that could create these images.
Wonderful stages, so to say.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about that is that any place can be a stage. Again, the lens helps you frame it. For example, this is on Clifton Beach. This is something us young Cape Townians, I think we're still young, but yeah, we will break fast on the beach as something just to, one of the days where you would like to just go out and take a break in the sense of just watching a beautiful sunset, breaking fast on the beach and praying with your friends. Something that's not really practiced everywhere. I do know people will break their fast outdoors, but this I think unique to Cape Town where, you know, we would do this and just posing simple questions of what is more important, breaking your fast or praying, breaking your fast with fast food, hence the title of the shot. Does it contradict the whole understanding of what it means to fast in Ramadan and eat healthy? Again, just these little quiet inner struggles and inner battles that we take so for granted, but it could have an effect. So again, like Hasan said,
We just made this picture because it's a beautiful memory that we had growing up. And what's funny about it is that that's why we made the picture. And they took this, our gallery took this photograph that year to Art Basel, you know, the big art fair that happens every year. And amazing, in a couple of hours, the entire edition of this photograph was sold out. And people loved the picture. And it just showed us like how unpredictable art is because you're making work that is like special to you, but you don't know how the reaction is going to be, how it's going to be received. And it's such a simple picture, but I mean, people loved it. And I always believe that if people are willing to spend that kind of money owning your work, I mean, it's something special to us. Not only does it allow us to carry on making art, but it also tells us that it belongs to that person because they're willing to look after it, to treasure it. And that's where I'm happy to have people that own that work of ours.
Boys, could I just ask who were these characters in your pictures? Are they friends, relatives?
Ma'am, this is all just my brother and I. We are everybody.
Yeah, there's no one else.
And
No,
so
no, but you had
specifically
five
the
other.
characters, yes, are people we see every day.
Yes.
So yes, we do take out these characters and we will actually label them. So in the post-editing process, my brother and I will have a conversation because we're sifting through about 400 stills. And I'll be like, you know, that guy, he is this character. Oh, you know, he actually is that person in that scenario. And so like, for example, this is titled Five Pillars. And we would say, you know, that this person reaching out, he looks like the Ustad. Then there's, you know, that guy that always sits in front and he's dressed in his casual clothes, but he's sitting in the first saf. Then you have the more religious one. And my brother also enjoyed one of the characters. You can see he's on the left middle is this dark hooded character. And so we found some symbolism even within some of these characters that we would repeat in some of our photographs as being symbols of maybe death, a symbol of maybe a dark side or something. So like that character represent, and there you see him again within this wonderful shot, again placed in a very similar location.
Yes, that's right.
And again, that death character is present because we're dealing with death, and these are our so-called Awliya that came to Cape Town as slaves, and they're the ones that actually kind of propagated Islam here, and they buried all around Cape Town in these unusual locations, and we truly believe they're protecting the city in a way. And again, you see in the foreground the character closest to you wearing the Palestinian colors, and these were shot years ago. And so with death, we always kind of also associated with those Palestinian colors because our brothers and sisters have been suffering for a very long time. And linking it to these various narratives, but also to our own narrative of our own culture, our own identity, our own heritage.
Yeah, because I mean, South Africa, as Muslims, we also face the struggle, you know, and as different communities. And that's why we as South Africans, we're so connected with the Palestinian struggle today. And being aware of an apartheid system and injustice where minorities are targeted. So,
and the ocean is quite symbolic too, because the ocean is where our forefathers came. They came via the ocean. Knowledge came via the ocean. So that too is quite symbolic. This is one of my favorite photographs. It's titled Gang Wars. Here in the Cape Flats where we live, gang violence is a massive, massive problem. We have a serious problem with gang violence and drug abuse. Both my brother and I, we are in the education field. We've been teaching for more than 10 years. We've done extreme poverty, and we've done also the quite private schools, etc. But we've been accustomed, we exposed to this. We teach learners from these areas. We stay very close to this specific area. And
so these structures are called the Cape Flats. These block houses were the houses built by the apartheid government to house the predominantly colored community. So you'll find that it's still predominantly colored, but it also over the years, through drugs and gangsterism and just not being well managed, have you found these areas really in dire crisis? Yeah, in a very bad space.
And so this is what you will hear and experience every day, every weekend. Boys within these communities don't survive till the age of 21. It's a very sad reality. And so this is a typical scene with a twist of turning this gang violence into a kind of Palestinian issue. So you have the character in the middle, the guy trying to kind of help the fallen person, the Palestinian flag over his body, as to show that he's already passed on. And then you have kind of these other characters. And that's also the interesting, but you don't know who the victim or the oppressor is. And I think that's the kind of stage we're in today of not knowing who the good or bad person are. So we leave it up unto the viewer to decide. Our works were described as leaving a gray area for interpretation. And I like that we allow viewers to make their final judgment.
Even in that first image of the Pitbull fight, where you have the Islamic character and the one that is in fashionable clothes, there's no good or bad. You know, they're fighting each other, but you don't know who is the good or evil, or who's going to win, who's going to come out on top. And like Hussein said, you're always left in this middle ground. But the dialogue and the conversation that comes from it, I think, is more valuable. So from that kind of debate and questioning, do you see which one is would you favor or not?
And these photographs, these were taken in Cuba. We were very lucky to go to the Havana Biennale. These were the missiles given to Cuba by Russia during the missile crisis. And we just found it unique or interesting, being young as well, that we associate these clothing items with objects like this. We found a deep connection because of what we were being fed via Hollywood and the media. You know, there was just this natural inclination to, when you saw missiles, we wanted to be even more extreme, you know, feed the public what we were being fed. So just like showing them, look here, how easy it is to feed you this narrative. And we even doing it, two guys from Cape Town, you know, with a very old digital camera and not the best photo manipulating software, but we're still able to do something like this.
Guys, I just wanted to appreciate what's been happening in the back, you know, in the backstage, because it must be quite difficult for you to take some of these, you know, photos. I just wanted to ask, like, how was it, you know, logistically, if you were going to, you know, shoot at a particular location, how difficult was it, or how easy was it for you guys to do that?
Very good question. Some are easier than others, but I think the trick is that Hussein and I are twin brothers. So we grew up sharing the world together. So our visual language is very similar. When Hussein speaks visually to me, I can see the picture. So all the photographs you are seeing, there's a conversation that happens before it's taken. Because we have to go to the space prepared. So if it's doing a little prep, doing some sketches, sometimes we'll speak for weeks, days. But once we sit and we know what we're going to do, and we've had that argument, conversation, we will prepare the space. If we need extra bodies, for example, photographing in an overpark where there's lots of gangs, then we'll try and get people to join us. But other spaces being too, we always have each other's backs. And that's where I think we are able to achieve a lot of the photographs, because we will go to a space, we know exactly what we need to do in that space. All our clothes are in a bag. So all the kind of characters we know that we're trying to recreate, we have all the props, we have all the costumes with us, and it's just going into the space and we set the timeline. Sometimes the photograph to capture one image, it takes about 40 minutes. Sometimes others take longer and others are shorter. And then what we'll do is we'll set up, and then Hussein will do his thing, I will do my thing. And you'll find that sometimes when we're actually taking this photograph, Hussein and I don't even speak to each other. It just happens naturally because we know what needs to take place. And
It's
we
the
know
chemistry between twins, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
exactly.
So you're communicating with someone that's not there,
Yeah.
but you're so inclined. It's so natural. It's second nature to do so. So,
But don't get me wrong. Sometimes it also gets heated because it's two opinions that clashes. So sometimes we fight a lot, and other times it happens very smoothly.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say, it happens organically. You know, we're in the space. Yes, you can prepare to a certain point, but once you're in the space, it's really where the magic happens.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you see a prop in the space that, wow, I can use that. Or someone does something in a space, or you see a personality in the space and you actually want to
you can use
recreate
that character.
that personality. So, you know, you can, like I said, prepare to a certain point, but once you're in that space and we're starting to put on the clothes, we're moving around, that's really where we're interacting with the space, and the camera just becomes capturing that documenting that performance, like I say. And that's what enjoyable. It's like a performance that is happening.
I know we're seeing the Hulk, but I just wanted to look at what's behind you guys, because I can see there is a series of canvases, and we haven't actually had the chance to speak about those yet.
So we are currently at the school that Hussein teaches
in my classroom.
Yeah. So this is the students' work that is in the background. Hussein and I are both educators. We did our third teaching certificate in 2012. And it was something that I think we naturally leaned towards, because before that, we were always being asked to do workshop with the young ones. As professional photographers, people would invite us to go and do workshops with students, with young students. And we had this passion for working with people, you know, and kind of sharing our expertise. And we had a year where we kind of had a kind of blank year. We thought, okay, this would be a good year to actually pursue this passion that was starting to grow within us, within education. And it was the best decision we made. So till today, Hussein and I are very involved with arts education within our community, within our country. And I think that is also where we would love to leave our legacy within South African art. And what best than South African art and education.
And the nice thing is, over the years, we've had a few matric boys who later on went on to study art, to study something, and we meet them, they'll be like, Mr. Essop, wow, like, it's so nice to see you, you know, being in your class really inspired me. You know, I'm a graphic designer today, or I'm in architecture, even I'm in engineering, but your classes and your art really inspired me to do this or pursue that and
stimulate this thought. So for me, for Hussein and I, you know, we want to create that appreciation and love for art. We're not trying to teach or make our learners become artists, but we want to create a generation that is going to support the arts. Be it they become artists, or they're going to buy art, go watch performances, support the artists, because that's what we need. We need more people in our community to support the art, so that the people that are creating these works can carry on doing what they're doing and not struggle.
Yeah, because I feel it is quite bubbled up within a certain class, within a certain category. So you find only a minority of people can afford art, can afford buying, or do go and see, you know. So the larger community, the poorer community, which make up 80% of our population, they're not the ones going to galleries and exhibitions. They don't know anything about art, etc. And specifically our community, never mind not going to or not being able to afford it, it's just religiously they feel like this is a red area, not even a gray area, an area that they don't really delve into or encourage or promote. So we find interesting discussions happening. We've been having to defend ourselves all the years. Even with my own uncles, they would be like, my uncles are quite, I won't say extreme, but they're very, to them, art is still a taboo subject. And when we have conversations with them, they try to come around, they try to understand where you're coming from. And the crux of our message is that, look, we've been given an opportunity to really talk about our deen, overcome some of the wrongs that people have been fed. And this is maybe Allah's way of giving us the opportunity to fight this battle in a peaceful manner, in a beautiful manner, and in an intellectual manner, rather than actually using something physical, you know. So we got big roles or big shoes to fill, and Alhamdulillah, we've managed. Yes.
I know that now you're educating people about art, and I just wanted to ask, like, how different is it? Because either way, you are actually raising awareness and changing mindsets, of both attendees to the galleries that you host, or by educating people. But how different was it for you guys? I know we don't have much time left, but I just wanted to ask you this question.
You have your challenges. Well, as teachers, you have a curriculum that you have to get through. There's certain content. There's also,
We actually, in our grade 12 matric book, a 6-page spread, if I may say so. So we actually teach ourselves to our matrics. How cool is that?
yeah. So there are things that you have to keep. You kind of have to be careful to speak about, especially enforcing your own opinions and things onto learners. I think as teachers, I love engaging in conversation. I allow my learners to have voice their opinions, and I will never tell them that is wrong or that is right. I always believe in engaging in conversation, getting as much information, exposing learners to as much information so that they can decide what is important and what is knowledge. And that's the least and the best I can do. But at the end of the day, Hussein and I are very passionate about art. We're very passionate about sharing, and I think that's infectious. When learners are in our class, they feed off that passion, and if that is what we can also inject and give off, that's all you need as young people. They just need passion, and once they have that passion, they have that drive, that work ethic, that they can do whatever they put their mind to.
So one last question from myself. So what's in the future for the Essop twins, and what should we as audience, what should we expect from you guys in the future?
I feel like, yes, now is the time, like Hasan was saying, education really took us. We wanted to focus on that, but we're being creative every single day. And we in a space now where there's so much happening around us. People are actually turning to us to find out, guys, what are you doing? Like, yeah, there's something happening. And people tend to look at the artists, what are they making? And so we feel like, yes, this is the year to actually, we are being productive. We're experimenting with painting. We're still experimenting with photography or new approaches with our photographic materials and techniques. We're very much into sculpture, like all the mediums. Just trying to make gallery quality work would be our next step. Right now, everything is kind of just getting our ideas down, warming up our hands, experimentation. So I feel like we're at that experimentation phase, but what I think there's exciting things that
what I would love to do, because since 2007 to 2017, Hussein and I have worked solely together. We collaborate. We never made anything individually. So post university, it was just Hussein and I making art together. And I think it got to a point where I felt that we kind of lost our individual voices because we're always making work through a conversation. So, I've had this conversation with Hussein quite a bit, is that for me, the next step, and what I would love personally, is to actually have 2 solo shows in a single show, where I would come and make a body of work, and Hussein make a body of work, and then we have an exhibition where it features 2 solos. Because I think we've reached a point where we kind of lost our own voices, and I would love to find that voice again and show that actually what do each of us bring to the duo. And I think in an exhibition where you have 2 solos, you will actually see my side and you see Hussein's side, Hussein's voice, and you'll see it's it's 2 different voices.
But subconsciously, you'll see the connection.
Yeah.
We amaze ourselves sometimes. A lot of the things, even post-production, after the photograph has been stitched and we're looking at it together, we're like, just wow, how did that even come into play? And it just shows that that twin sense does exist. I think it's a real thing. And this discussion of having two solo shows, the exciting bit of just having these two bodies and see how they actually intertwine subconsciously is a really exciting thought to have, and something that a spark that is actually fueling us to start making
But
new work.
we also don't put that pressure on ourselves. I think a big mistake where a lot of artists, especially if they're surviving off the sales of their work, is they have this pressure to make art and they have the pressure to sell it. And sometimes you're making art and you're forcing it out. And it's a very dangerous thing because you're making work that might not be true to yourself. And Hussein and I are in a very favorable position because at the moment, we don't make art to survive off. We have our teaching that serves that part. So anything that we are making is very true and honest, and it flows quite naturally. So we've been in a wonderful space where we've been making work with no pressure. We haven't put that pressure on us, but I think we've gotten to a point where it's been a while since we had a show. We've had 5 solo shows in the past, a solo show every 2 years, and then we've had a bit of a break. And I think as the art world can put that pressure on you because a lot of people ask us, boys, what are you doing? And it's frustrating at times because, I'm in a good space, but I think we're now moving towards, okay, we've had our rest. Let's push to the next step. But, as artists, you're also under that pressure, being cutting edge, being relevant. When you're making work, you're not only putting your work out there, but you're putting your work out there for criticism. And as so easily you can make it in the art world, they can take it away. So you also have to be very careful what you're putting out there and making sure it's the best that you're putting out there.
Thank you, Hasan and Husain.
Kezra, you're muted.
Oh, yes. My question was going to be about the impact of you being twins. It's just fascinating, riveting. When I heard about you a year ago, I was just so excited. I thought, my goodness, South Africa, we've never done anything from there. Photography and twins, my goodness, what are they like? How does that work for them as professionals, as brothers, as photographers? And in a way, you gave us some insight into your life. Like, can you expand a bit more on that? I mean, it's just fascinating for us.
As from a young age, Hussein and I, we loved drawing, and we would compete constantly with each other. We were always competing. And I think that's how we got good at drawing, is that who could draw this picture better. And through life, we went through that, is that we always kind of bounced off each other, but we were always each other's kind of worst enemy, so to say, because we always wanted to kind of be better than the other, but it made us stronger. And when we graduated from university, we realized that I developed certain specialties. Hussein developed certain specialties. Now, instead of fighting each other, let's join forces. And that, I think, was the strength in our duo. And that's what what attracted people, because we kind of took everything that we've learned and we joined forces, And Cape Town is a very small community. Everybody knows everybody. And that also, because of being twins, being artists, I think that also stood out. So people would know Hasan and Husain as the art boys, because there was no other Indian Muslim boys in Cape Town that was doing this.
Yeah, there was just this kind of open space for us, and I think that's what the gallery saw as well. Like, this is new, we haven't come across this. Let's give this a go. It's not
And I think believing into each other, believing in each other's capabilities and abilities was also the pro in this. So Hussein would come up with a great idea, and I'll be like, wow, that's a fantastic idea. I can picture that. But maybe you could do this, or maybe tweak that a little, and that's how the conversation would go, and that shows in the work that we make, because at the same time, yes, it's an argument, it's a debate, but the photographs you are seeing is this coming together, this agreement of this conversation that was happening.
Yeah, even in the post-production, we'd sit weeks and weeks on end, removing characters, adding characters. I mean, if you see a photograph of maybe just 3 characters, know that that was already populated with 20 other characters that have been over time carefully taken out or left, So the end product, as Hasan states, is really the aha moment of, you know what, we're done. You know, it's always difficult for an artist, especially a painter, to, is this the last stroke on my canvas? And vice versa with our photographs, we would get to a point where, is this the last layer? Are we working? Do we flatten, save, boom? And at that point, we don't go back to the photograph once. And it's amazing. We'll both have that moment of, Hasan, I think it's done. And he'll be like, Hussein, I think it's done. Then we know the photograph is done. When that twin thing happens, of like, okay, that is the button pressed. This image is done, dusted, and gets
And
locked away.
even if it has flaws, because all our pictures, they are mistakes, they are flaws. We know it's there. We accept it as it is.
It's part of the
And
process.
It's part of the work.
Yeah.
Because no one's perfect. Nothing can be perfect. We're not perfect. And that's what we love about our art.
Guys, this is fantastic. Can I just quickly say, if anybody in the public has any questions or any thoughts to share, perhaps you know, you've got some different perspective on any of the photos, please put them in the chat. We do want to engage with our public. Do we have any more questions from Aisha or Kezra? If not, I've got a question, but let's ask them first.
That's all for me, but I've seen there is a question from Barbara on the chat
Barbara's question is-
for
Can I answer that question from Barbara?
I would also like to answer that question.
Yes, so the
Humor
humor,
plays a big role.
but the humor was, you will find it in our earlier works. From 2008 to 2009, Hussein and I were using a lot of satire and irony in our images. And that bodies of work you'll find in bodies called halal art, and also work called power play. But after 2009, you'll see that the work does become a lot more serious. So the works that you've been seeing in the slides, like I said, it's a selection from a large collection of work over 10 years. So the earlier works, and that's what's a success, because people enjoyed the humor in our pictures, but then also gradually it became a lot more serious. So I would recommend Barbara to actually maybe go back and look at the early works, where she would find where we were being a lot more playful because we were younger, and like I said.
But there's also so much more you can do through humor. I tend to do that with my learners. You know, some of them might say something that comes across as being racist. They might say something that is hurtful towards my belief system, but they're not doing it intentionally. And the best way is to buy into that, to turn it into a humorous matter, or turn it into a joke, because like that you actually get through to people a bit better. And so I enjoyed those earlier years of having that underlying humor, playing around with this kind of satire that he's talking about. And presently we have many South African artists that actually embrace that too. Someone like Brett Murray, you know, taking really serious matters and giving the light-hearted, but at the same time being quite controversial. You know, so using humor in a very intellectual manner is a powerful art tool too to use.
Thank you so much for that, guys. Yeah, so you were talking about a very important thing about people bringing in their own views on your works. I don't know if ever anybody has brought in anything into your awareness about your works that you never thought about, or I mean, for example, the work that you made on the beach. That speaks to me personally, and I find it very deep, because you're kind of showing this beautiful landscape, you know, and it's the seaside, so it's like never-ending space, and in a way you could just be there, and it takes me straight away back to this famous book, Be Here Now by Ram Dass, and then almost 30 years later we've got The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And you could just be there and just enjoy it. And then you're showing all these different characters that are engaged in religious practices. And, you know, you could think about it as a representation of any kind of religion practices, any kind of anything that the mind gets engaged in, and then that influences the behavior and the lifestyle and what we choose to do. And then the more I looked in that photo, I saw that character on the right that is just standing there, just looking at the seaside. That was amazing. I mean, has anybody ever looked at it in that way?
Yes, I think some people like if as an artist, if you put enough signifiers within the work, you can guide that interpretation. But to answer your question, something's coming up, so I might digress a little bit. But we had an amazing show in Holland, and a company actually took our body of work, halal art and power play, and they blew up our photographs billboard size. So imagine like 30 of our photographs, the size of billboards. And then they hosted these daily workshops where they would invite children into the space. They printed our works postcard size as well. And they gave our images to these kids and they could interact with the works. And so when we came across this kind of post-workshop results, it was amazing at how these kids were interpreting our images. They were scratching out faces. They were drawing pardas over the women. They were like, it was really interesting to see how they really, or how they kind of understood these signifiers or symbols, you know.
But also with that photograph, I think people that connects with the picture are people that share that memories like you did, you know. So when there's someone that looks at the picture and share the memory of breaking their fast on the beach or having a picnic sunset time, it brings up that nostalgia, it brings up that moment. And I think they can connect and see what we were kind of representing, you know. So I think it's when another thing is, yes, we are making this and it has a large Islamic undertone, but surprisingly enough, there's a big Jewish community that buys our work, that owns our work. And it just says that people from all different faiths, all different beliefs, they go through the same thing. They're all going through an inner struggle. So we engage with people um, that doesn't look like us, but they're going through the same thing, you know, and that is amazing. And they had this deep connection with the work because it ignites a thought within them. It ignites a memory. It ignites a conversation or a struggle that they're going through.
Yeah, because it might not just be our culture and religion that I mean, many people who are raised within a similar sense like us and say with a strict upbringing, strict cultural background, we all suffering kind of within this.
Not suffering, but yeah, going through these challenges.
Because a lot of the time we find ourselves saying like, oh, this generation losing what our parents, maybe it's a language. I know my parents speak an Indian language that I don't speak. My children won't speak. So it's kind of, it ended with our generation. So there's so many traditional things, cultural things that are ending with us. And it's our duty to actually carry on that lantern. But if we don't, it's going to end with us.
Or it's being replaced by something
else. So
I think that's the beauty of art, isn't it? Because as you said, it doesn't really matter what what community you come from, what religion you have. At the end of the day, you still see art as art. So that's absolutely beautiful. And I've been like reading some of the comments, so I just wanted to share one with you and all the audience. So this is from Rushda. She says, Salam, I just wanted to say thank you to the twins. So basically, you are guys the reason why she studied fine art and then she continued to do her master's in fine arts because as a Muslim growing up in Cape Town, she struggled to find South African Muslim artists. So she's saying, shukran to both of you for creating honest artworks.
And I know Rushda, so you see, we a close community, like I said, and it's really beautiful and it means a lot to us. And I just hope we can do that for many more. And she can go on and do for others, you know, and it creates this whole cycle. And that, inshallah, in a few years' time, you will have a new generation of young Muslim creatives that are, you know, that are just making powerhouses and making waves and exposing our beautiful culture, beautiful religion to people all over.
But also tackling important matters. I mean,
and changing the narrative.
We are facing,
and we're lucky that we protected under the veil of art, you know, because you can have these issues in a very unique space, and that's the wonderful thing about art.
No, I absolutely find that fascinating. Sorry, okay, sorry, go on.
There is a question: where can we find your earlier work from someone?
That we're still building. We need to put up a proper website, but the best space is to go onto the Goodman Gallery's website, or they can just Google Hasan and Husain Essop, 2007, 2008. On the Goodman's Gallery website, it was the gallery that we were with. They have an archive of all the exhibitions that they have done since they started. and then our exhibitions will be in there. So the first one I would recommend is called Power Play, and the second one is called Halal Art. So Hasan and Husain Essop, Halal Art. And then we did another exhibition called Remembrance. That was a really wonderful exhibition because Hussein and I went on Umrah and we actually documented our journey. We visited the 3 harams. So that's also an opportunity we had to go visit Palestine. And when we came back and we had this wonderful exhibition. So you will actually see that transition, especially when we went to Palestine. I think a lot of things of us changed when we did our Umrah because that journey put things in perspective for us. And then later you'll see others. Yeah. So I would say go on the Goodman Gallery, their website. Will have most of them.
And guys, I know you've been, to Europe quite often, different places. You've been to Amsterdam and to Germany, but any chances you might be coming to London anytime soon?
Inshallah, if you invite us, I'm sure we'll be there on the next plane.
No, we don't have plans coming to London. It is a bit tricky for us to be traveling, but inshallah, anything can happen. But yeah, I think that for the moment, we just trying to focus on getting this, new work and getting the process again and so forth.
And guys, just one last question from me. So, what pieces of advice would you give people who are into art, who are seeking a future in art generally, and who are, could be a minority in their own countries? Like, what do you suggest they do, or how should they start their careers?
It's a tough one because, like Hassan said, a lot of our relief was having a permanent job. So we didn't have the pressure because it's difficult. Again, you're making work and you're not knowing whether you're just the craze for today and then for the next few years you stagnant. So keep a paying job and then balance your time and make sure that you are productive every day. Whether you go out and you take just one photograph or you're painting one or you're just starting a canvas or a small piece of it, but every day do something and set yourself those goals and push yourself. I found entering competitions helped me initially set myself, a time frame and gave myself this kind of due date, so to say, that on this date I need so many photographs to submit. And that is also a great stepping stone into getting yourself out there. So entering any competition that you can get your hands on, attending exhibitions, attending walkabouts, attending lectures, those are very important steps in starting off a career within art, getting to know your environment, the people around you. Networking is so important.
Yeah. I think as a young creator, to go study is very important. Because whatever you're making, you have to write about it. You need to know what you're actually speaking about. So studying art is very valuable. And like Hussein said, just being active within the art world, going to visit exhibitions, because the art community is a small community and not everyone knows everybody. So once you build a network, build a connection, get like-minded artists, connect with artists that are like-minded, start a group, because you also can't work alone in a studio. You need to get people to respond, feedback, because people can give you good advice, can guide you. And that's actually what we're trying to be part of also here, is to start a small community of Muslim artists that we can come together and help and assist. Because what we find is that our Muslim artists are struggling because they're working in islands, they're working in isolation. So yes, connect with like-minded people, visit exhibitions, look at what is trending, go to art fairs. The art fairs are the best place. It's a lot of art to look at, but you can actually get a good sense of what is happening, what is current internationally.
And perfect your skill. Perfect it. If you're a photographer, make sure you are the best at what you're doing. If you are a painter, make sure that your style and technique is the best, for yourself, and once you've perfected your skill and you're confident, people will naturally be inclined towards it. People can sense someone who didn't give it the all.
Yeah.
Because even with our photographs, we truly feel the works that are so powerful are the ones where we actually put our lives on the line. We put ourselves within a dangerous space, and those works hold a lot of power and weight, not only with us, but the people that see it.
Yeah.
They actually pick up on that power and weight.
That's important. Be content with what you put in, because at the end of the day, when your work goes up, it goes up for criticism, you know. And if someone's going to criticize your work, if you know you've done your best, anybody can say anything. Because we've had people that given us some very negative reviews on our work. But you know, we take the positive out of it, but we never let it put us down, because we know we've done our best and we've tried our best. So if someone really puts their heart and soul, make sure whatever you're putting out, you're happy, you're confident, it's your best, and then leave the rest into Allah's hands. Because at the end of the day, it's
Absolutely
Allah knows
brilliant, guys.
best.
Honest advice. I really appreciate that. Even like someone who loves art, I really appreciated that, because I know some people would go on and say, oh, like it's amazing, you can just start a career. And like, you know, they would build this pink, like, you know, future, but in real life, it doesn't really exist. It's quite difficult.
No, ma'am, it's much harder than that. Yes,
But it's
But
fun, you
yeah,
know.
the
We
journey
get
is-
to live our passion every day, you know. And Alhamdulillah, I have moments and I just say, Shukr Allah, Shukr for blessing me with so much. Because I have a moment where I'm sitting in my class, everyone is busy, and I'm just sitting and watching them making art. And I'll just say, Shukr Allah, Shukr Allah, Shukr for everything you have given me. Because this, I get to live my passion, you know. And I get to go home, I get to go to my studio, and I get to pick up a paintbrush and I get to paint.
Yeah.
And it's a true blessing. So alhamdulillah, if people can reach that in their lives, alhamdulillah. But it takes hard work to get there.
Guys, I'm so sorry. As long as I, you know, as much as I want to prolong the conversation, I'm afraid that we really need to wrap up. But I will leave Kaisra to just say a few words before we do.
Okay, thank you so much, lovely boys. It's been absolutely amazing. And as I said to you the other day, after my sister-in-law's visit, my brother's visit to your neck of the wood in South Africa, we love everything you've said and learned a lot. You've still got a lot to tell us, particularly about our communities, but we're going to leave that. And this is why I want to say something to announce to our audience. We're going to have a very special event next year as part of Ramadan Festival, Hello from South Africa, where we will invite one or two of these young men to lead us into a conversation about how they celebrate Ramadan, the history of the Muslim community, their cultural heritage. There's so much to learn, and I can't wait for that. Is that correct, Hassan? We will see you again. You know what, Hassan? Aisha sitting here did the same thing, saying hello from Tunisia. She was sitting in Tunisia with
Wow, okay.
and she was
So maybe
celebrating
Aisha
cultural
can
heritage.
give me some guidance
So
on
it's your turn next year in South Africa.
yeah. I'm
So
looking
that's what I
forward to
wanted
it.
to say. Thank them, and we look forward to hosting you again, inshallah, next year for Ramadan Festival. Hello from South Africa. Over to you now, Katarzyna.
Thank you so much, Kajra. Thank you for being with us today. Aisha, thanks for fantastic hosting. I'm so glad you turned up last minute, and we're very grateful because you've been absolutely great for this event. Guys, thank you so much. It was amazing. Honestly, when we found you with Kajra, we just couldn't believe there's two of you. It's like, you know, one person but doubled. Yeah, as I said at the beginning, we've got MACFEST Arts Awards coming up. Hasan will be one of the judges, leading for photography. So we are eager to see any works that you would like to show. There is a chance they're gonna make into the physical exhibition at the University of Salford. We're gonna have an award ceremony. So please, the entrance is free. There is no entry fee. So please do make it before the 30th of June. We do want to see your works. And this is open to this year to Northwest Muslim artists in the UK. Before we go, while I have your attention, we've got a few events coming up. Next weekend, we've got Islamophobia and Muslims in the Media with Dr. Miriam Francois. On Sunday, we've got Islam and Caring for the Natural World. And then the following weekend, we've got books with Safiata, all the way from America. And then on Sunday, 16th of June, we've got Indonesian Culture and Heritage. So I hope to see all of you very soon on our upcoming events. Thank you again.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to everybody.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, boys. Enjoy your evening.
You
Thank
too.
you. Bye.